You're listening to the Light Over Time podcast with David Sargent and Korey Bartos. It is November 12th, 2023. And Sony has announced in like 6 months the a7S III is getting breathing comp. We have to wait till March. They're like, yeah, dude, check this out. In like 6 months from now, we'll give you breathing compensation. So
This is just kicking the can down the road and hoping you forget in March.
Don't sell your a7S III yet.
They're going to pull a Nikon D850 and just wait forever.
We're definitely not making the a7S IV because we're going to give you a firmware update in 6 months.
Yeah.
Just so you know. And we're not going to give the A1 24p DCI either because your $6,000 camera is not that sweet. You should sell it and buy an a9III. Anyway, how are you, David?
I'm good. I'm a whole bag of emotions and feelings. We can get into that later, but I'm feeling good with this, I guess, dark roast Chiapas I put on ice.
Right on. I love that. Love a flash brew. Don't love a dark roast, but we'll take it.
Well, I tried to under extract it as best I could for, a dark roast, so it didn't get too bitter. So it's actually got a little woodiness and a little spice that's not overbearing.
Very nice. So we got kind of a show today. There's a lot kind of going on.
We should. It's been a while.
It's like a lot and a little. It's been about a month. We've just been super busy. So I have a couple of things here, not a crazy amount on the dock. I just want to get started with what is going on with you. Normally I ask what you're shooting, but there's some wildness. So let's just kind of hop into that. However you would like to share your big news.
I'll get it started. So yesterday, that would be November 11th, this Saturday, was my last farmer's market, which is like kind of weird to say since we last talked because that would not have been in the cards. Since our last show, I have been approached and hired as a coffee roaster in Marquette, Michigan. I live 4 hours away from Marquette. I own a home. I have 2 kids, a dog, and 2 cats. So I am on this journey right now of trying to sell and buy a home. And as it stands right now, we have a home secured on contingency. So all we have to really do is sell a home, and we're on our way.
That's so wild.
So much is happening in the last couple of weeks. It's been a wild ride. I've had this business for 2 years, roasting coffee, and last year I couldn't have thought I'd even be where I am today in this business it's just grown amazingly. I had to say goodbye to so many people yesterday and last week that I wouldn't have known or cared about 2 years ago, but they've grown to be such amazing people for me, supportive of me. If you are one of those people listening, thank you very much. Not a lot of you, I'm sure, but there's some of you who have seen me every week. It's like I get a little emotional like all day yesterday.
Oh yeah.
These people who just don't know anything else about me other than I roast coffee that they love to drink all week long, every single freaking week. And it's amazing to be part of people's lives like that. It's a weird thing, but I get to educate. And so anyway, as soon as we sell and move, I'll be the head roaster at Dead River Coffee Roasters, which has been a business that I have loved for years. Theo McCracken started Dead River Coffee Roasters back in 2001 or 2002, I believe, and he recently sold it to the new owner. And she and I have been in contact with each other for a long time, just about since she bought it. And we keep up with each other, and she's watched me start a business from nothing to where I am now, which has been a staple in the community, supplying people with coffee every week. So she saw what kind of an asset I've been here and how I could be an asset for Dead River. And I was happy to talk with her and make this happen. So we're in the middle of making it happen. It's amazing.
Yeah, man. Congrats. It's super cool. So for those who don't know, I guess the super TLDR is that a couple of years ago, you went from starting on a little baby roaster, playing around with making your own coffee, to very quickly moving up to a much larger roaster. And then you went from, I want to say like the scale from last year's farmers markets to this year was like very not linear and very exponential, because you went from like having pretty small days to like you were selling bags at like you were like, Korey, I sold 32 bags of coffee today, I remember, and you were like, what in the hell is going on? And like that's big freaking moves for a dude that puts a freaking 10 up at a farmer's market. Like there are people that own like a roaster building and they want days like that. They like don't get days like that. Like that's awesome.
There's definitely a benefit to being in a place where people congregate on a regular basis. Yeah. And if you're one of the people who stay regular as a vendor there, they're going to get to know you. And as long as they try your product and you have a great product and you stand by your product, then there's not going to be an issue with that. So yeah, it hasn't been exactly linear. I can tell you it's somewhere between 3x and 4x last year's business, picking up 2 more market days. It's been amazing. So I couldn't have imagined I would have gotten this far in such a short amount of time. And yeah, I went from a stovetop electric spindle roaster to the Gene Cafe fluid bed roaster to the Aleo Bullet 1 kilogram roaster. And even 1 kilogram is supposed to be a shop's sample roaster. They did not design this roaster to be production, but I pushed it farther than it should have. In fact, last year I probably pushed it outside of its warranty. Aleo, who makes my current roaster, puts in the warranty, you're only allowed to roast so much coffee per month, and if you roast more than that, we drop you from our warranty. And I broke that a long time ago.
Wow, yeah, that's wild, man.
But to their credit, I have currently one issue with a part on the roaster. So I emailed them and they sent it for free. So even though I'm out of warranty, they're still supporting, which is great. I currently have like 1,100 roasts on that machine. Wow. So I'm definitely somebody that I think they want to support. So I'm part of the community there and it's great. And I get to keep my roaster and take it to the shop. So I can't wait to use that because we have a 5 kilogram and a 10 kilogram. And let's get to talking about photography now. This is
fair enough. I was really stoked. We actually haven't had a moment to talk about it really.
I know.
Other than just like you're kind of rolling through it.
I haven't had a moment to do like anything else.
Yeah, I bet, man. I bet it's been pretty crazy. But so right on. I guess I should ask, like, have you had much time to shoot anything? Have you just been kind of grinding out your life right now?
I guess I shot photos of the A7C I want to sell and the 85 millimeter. Those 2 things I'm trying to offload just to liquidate some things. And if they don't sell, they don't sell. It's not a big deal. No, the answer is no. I haven't really been able to do like any shooting. I don't ever like to let the fall season go by and not really do any shooting. That's happening right now. And then like, the last time I did any major shooting was my birthday, September 10th. I hit the fall migration of warblers and stuff, and I was super excited about that. Since then, I haven't done much at all. And even right now, we have alerts for northern lights possible, and it's clear outside now. And I'm like, I just can't do it. There's just too much going on. So no, the answer is no. But you know what? When we move, I'll have every opportunity, and I can't wait.
Yeah, that's awesome. So for those of you who have been around for a while, you might remember that when David and I met each other in person for the first time, actually, it was for one of his workshops up in Marquette. And it is just a hell of a place to run around and take photos. So not that Charlevoix isn't. Charlevoix is a pretty nice place too, but Marquette's just amazing. So
yeah,
I'm sure you're probably pretty stoked to be able to get like really not like those Northern Lights days where you're like, these are fine, but I certainly wish I was somewhere really, really epic. You'll have those.
I truly, as a photographer now for the last 12 years, I have 2 stomping grounds. One is like Petoskey area, because that's where I went to NCMC and started my photography journey with the A55 and all that.
Fighting ferrets.
And then I moved to Marquette in 2015 and left in 2016. So I spent a year just banging out shots over and over and over all night, sunrises, sunsets in Marquette, and I love it, and I have missed it ever since. So yeah, I'm stoked to get back.
Yeah, that's gonna be awesome. Mm-hmm. We'll have to try and organize a live podcast up there. It'll be fun.
That'd be sick.
But yeah, as for me, my life has been super crazy. I'm obviously shooting for work still a bunch, and I was just out in Arizona, which is like just the freaking dream. I think the people in the desert hate it. They or they just are indifferent and they don't care. And I just go there and they're like, yeah, it's rocks and sand and stuff. And I'm like, it's so cool here. And they're just like, I was like, dude, I have like, if I hike, I can see at best a quarter mile but in front of me and behind me, and then there's trees and I'm just like hanging out. But you're doing like a 4-mile hike and you can see where you started and you can see where like your buddy's house is across the desert and you're like, this is epic. So and maybe we'll talk more about the desert stuff in a little bit, but my exciting topic of photography today is that I guess probably 5 weeks ago or something, a while ago, I bought a Canon 5D Mark I. And this little thing is properly getting me excited about shooting again.
Wow.
In a way that I kind of wanted film to do. But I just can't commit to shooting rolls fast for film. So like, despite wanting to have an analog like experience and like enjoying shooting film, that last roll took me 18 months. I put a new roll into this Pentax and I was like, okay, yeah, we're gonna get shooting. I have 6 shots on that Pentax. I have 30 more to go, and it's been like 2.5 months or something. So I just like, they're so precious that I feel like I can't I do it. But the 5D Classic is no video. It's photo only. It's 12 megapixels full frame. And what it's doing for me is you have an optical viewfinder again. I have no way to chimp or use live view at all. There's no live view on this camera. So you have to just like either meter or kind of have a good feel for what you're doing. And you got to have your eye up to the camera and you just have to shoot. And I was intrigued originally because I was kind of thinking about going back to a Fuji. I wanted like a pop around camera, something to toy with, something that maybe would have good JPEGs and I could work on like straight out a camera for composition and stuff. And I kept seeing this like pop up occasionally, and people would talk about how it's like filmic, or like the rumor that Kodak like helped develop the sensor when they did it, and like the color science is like blah blah blah, all this dumb stuff that I still don't really like. It's dumb. Like, don't listen to any of that. But it's a really interesting sensor. It goes up to 1600 ISO max, and 800 and 1600 ISO has like something about how it like takes an image. It doesn't have a lot of color noise, which is why I think people call it like filmic, because the grain that comes off of it is like just normal noise and not really color noise. Wow. So it's really pleasing. Like the JPEGs out of it are really, really nice.
So are you saying like in low light, if you tried to pull those shadows, they don't come out like magenta-y?
So like you can't like fully underexpose an image and like recover that.
Yeah, sure.
But if you get the exposure generally right at like the max ISO, they'll be noisy.
Yeah.
But like it just won't be like green and purple and blue and like garbage.
Okay.
It'll desaturate a little bit and it'll do the thing that a digital sensor will do, but it's like kind of nice. And then like you can black and white basically any of them and it looks pretty good. It's got a little, it's got some quirks to it or whatever, but this thing I got from KEH, it looks like it was manufactured last year. Like it looks like I got it in a freaking box. The body is super clean. It doesn't have like crazy wear on the corners or anything. It's like somebody bought it, put it on a shelf, and I got it for $270.
Dang.
And then I found this L Series 35 f1.4. It's got like some pretty gnarly scratches on the front of it, but if you're shooting wide open, like that doesn't really matter. It's not deep enough or horrible enough that it messes with that. And I got it for $280.
Yeah, and it's being put on a $200 body, so like who cares?
Well, yeah, I mean a $200 full frame, like solid camera, right?
Yeah,
like, it's not,
sure. Yeah.
But this is basically my Sony like setup. I use a 35 f1.4 and I put it on a full frame camera. And I don't stress out about having this in my bag. I don't stress out about it like taking a fall. It's just like a cool, dumb, big camera. It sounds super wild. Like it does not sound like any of my Sonys. I don't know if I can even get it right now, but I'll add the shutter noise. But it's just nice. And My buddy Ryan, who's he contributed to the last Photoshare, he's been picking up these weird Olympus cameras that are like 8 megapixels and 12 megapixels that are kind of old and janky, and just taking awesome photos with them. So we've been kind of going back and forth with these old digital cameras, and it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. So are you approaching using that in a way that you were like film? Like, are you approaching it trying to shoot like sets of images, or just taking it every day and shooting what you can?
So I've already done a bunch of posts on Jaegerworks, like with this, like just normal stuff that I would do for work, like, and I would just edit it and they look good and nobody knows that it's a 18-year-old camera, because this was released in 2005.
Yeah.
And and I also picked up the Nifty 50 for it for $50.
Perfect.
Which obviously, but yeah, so I've already done that. I took it to Arizona. So I took my Sony and it to Arizona and took some photos hiking, took some photos when I was out shooting with Ryan and stuff. And so I'm kind of doing a little bit of everything. I'm trying to figure out like that analog-ish experience is like, I just kind of will always treat it different. Like snapshots that I wouldn't use with my professional camera, I use with that. I try to play with like abstract stuff that I think is fun, and I just approach it like it's a fun toy rather than it's like my work object tool, right? So it's been really fun. I'm vibing. Again, it's an incredible condition, so it's just like been super rad.
That's amazing to hear you say that you're actually feeling motivated to shoot, and it's with a 5D1. That's so cool. And this brings me back to our conversations we had months ago about finding that there's this trend of people getting into early age digital cameras again, and maybe it's for a different reason with a different outcome too. But it's cool to see you fall into something that inspires you again.
Yeah, it's super rad. Like it's a 12 megapixel full frame sensor. It's just like my a7S III, which I took all over the Philippines and took photos of forever, right? So like 12 megapixels is still way more than you need for Instagram. 4K video is about 8 megapixels. So yeah, it's super rad. It's a little heavy. It's not really like a benefit to have such a big thing, but like I said, I started on the 7D, and the DSLR Canon body whole thing is just so comfortable to me. The files are nice. It's miserable for highlights. Like if you even slightly clip your highlights, dude, they're gone. They're white.
Yeah.
They're just white. Sorry. But it recovers the shadows pretty good if your ISO isn't too high. If you're at like ISO 640 or less, you can recover quite a bit of shadows, and they just I'll show you some of the photos that I took with it, and you'll go, oh, these are just like full frame, digital photos. They're great.
Well, you know what's interesting actually is I read this article years ago about raw editing getting better, over the years, and people who went back to years old raw photos to re-edit them and having better success with high dynamic with editing, like a high dynamic range image, now more than they would have years ago, because photo processing software has gotten better at handling that. And so I'm wondering if the same photographer who would have a Canon 5D Mark I shots now with it to edit them now, compared to like the types of shots that would shoot 18 years ago?
Yeah,
18 years ago. So like the software we have to edit these kinds of images from cameras that were developed 18 years ago, the software is better. So I'm wondering if you're having a better experience these days because of that reason.
I don't even know if it's like, because like this was still a killer camera. People are still using the Mark II and the Mark I like professionally. Like it definitely exists.
Yeah, sure.
But and I definitely think that the like curves on different tools like shadows and just curves in general, or all the exposure tools and stuff, probably work differently. Right? Like Camera Raw handles the CR2 probably differently than it did. Bit depth and all this other stuff. You're working with like 16 bit raw nowadays, and there's a lot of power behind this stuff. And then like the viewing, the screens that you're looking at these images, like if you were to edit something in 2005, dude, on your like your 360p like CRT computer monitor or whatever, like that's a totally different thing than
Very, very true.
And so like, could you even imagine a 12 megapixel full frame camera in 2005? Like that thing was probably, this was a slamming camera in 2005.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So it's really cool to revisit. And like, again, I'm super comfortable shooting through like a Canon viewfinder, and the screen is basically useless, which is funny too. So like chimping isn't even really an option, because like it's such a low res screen that you don't really even see if it's that sharp or not. You have to get it onto a computer. So it really is kind of like, you can see if your exposure is good or whatever.
Yeah.
But like if you missed focus, you're not going to know until you get it on your computer, because even if you zoom in on the view, the screen on the back, it's
probably good for checking composition at the very least, because aren't the older viewfinders, optical viewfinders, don't they only have a certain percentage of coverage of the sensor, like 95% or something like that? So there's actually more than you're seeing. I feel like there's something like that.
A bunch of them did. I actually don't know if the 5D Classic has full coverage of its, because like you're right, the 1D up to like the 1D4 and stuff like that, all those old Canons, they definitely didn't have full coverage of the viewfinder or whatever. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure that probably is the case out here. It is. I'm curious now. The crazy thing too is that I don't understand how, like, okay, so obviously we take all of our autofocus stuff to, super for granted now. Our phones are even super good at autofocusing, so like nothing is a big deal. But I found that I kind of miss. You can't. Okay, sorry, a little scatterbrained. I still use single point autofocus on my Sony, like most of the time. Wow. It's just like I'm built that way. I've been shooting that way forever. Keep in mind, when I got into mirrorless, I was on a GH4 and the autofocus wasn't even good. So like, you had to like really tell it, hey, right here is where I want to focus.
Right.
And that's kind of how I feel, because like I do a lot of product stuff where like maybe I want focus only on the logo and stuff like that. So it just makes sense. But center and recomposing, again, because like this has like 7 autofocus points and the only one that's good is the center one,
right, is
I dare I say I kind of shoot a little faster. Like I can just like bop around and I'm like, I got right back to it without even trying. Like focus, recompose, focus, recompose. I was like, oh, this is like how I'm supposed to shoot cameras. It's wild to me.
I have to ask, do you know what the burst rate is? Is there a burst?
I haven't 3 frames a second.
That sounds about right.
Which is fast as heck, boy.
For 2 decades ago, yeah.
Yeah, it's 18 years old. It's doing its best.
Yeah, it's allowed to vote.
Yeah, it sure is. It has all sorts of rights now.
Yeah.
I don't know. This doesn't say anything about the viewfinder not having full coverage, so that's interesting. Huh. This camera was $3,300 without a lens in 2005. So I got it for less than a tenth of that.
I mean, what did the 5D4 launch at? It's got to be pretty similar, actually.
I think probably almost. That one might have been 38. It's close though. Yeah. It's about 3 something.
Yeah. Cool.
But yeah, so that was August 2005, and it has a life now with me. I adore it. It is wonderful.
Do you know how many shots are on the shutter?
Oh, dude, I should look that up. Yeah, I can. I haven't done that. That's crazy that I haven't done that. I literally have not treated it like it's a normal camera.
Like you said, it looks pretty clean. So I'm wondering if it's like below 100,000.
Oh my god, that'd be super cool. Like even the freaking tag is super good.
It's never been on a tripod.
Dude, it's like it's so clean. There's no wear on it.
You might be right about it sitting on a shelf. That looks suspiciously clean.
There's wear on the metal up here, but like that's it.
It was a wedding shooter who never put it on a tripod, who always had a flash on.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. I mean, it's par for the course for a Canon 5D, right?
Yeah. So anyway, that's been an adventure. I haven't even shot it as much as I would like to, but it is inspiring me quite a bit to just shoot different stuff. And like, it's not great for shooting animals. I think animal autofocus is still my favorite thing of all time. I can't get a dog photo with this thing to save my life.
Yeah. That is definitely an area that I take for granted. Autofocus with birds and any animals that I get a chance with, that has come a long way.
Oh yeah, I probably would need to work way harder to get even like 1/100th of the dog photos I get if I only had a DSLR. So
you'd probably better off manual focusing for that.
Oh, probably. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Because I don't even like. Yeah, the autofocusing is really good for single point, single autofocus, stationary stuff.
Sure.
You got to be a pro to run one of these real well. But there are pros out there. I am a false messiah. The next order of business is that we had a photo share months ago.
We did.
It was so long ago. I don't even know when it was now. I don't even know what month it was supposed to be for.
We probably kicked it off in like September or something.
Well, me and Fabian have photos for it. So he's the realist. He submitted. And I actually was like, maybe I just will skip the photo share and be like, better luck next time. And then I looked into my Gmail today and I was like, Fabian submitted one. Let's go.
He submitted one today?
No.
Okay.
I don't check the LO2 submissions like all the
Okay.
time, and I just haven't because I don't until it's relevant.
All right, well, let's do it.
So it's pretty sick. I have a folder here. I will share it to you.
I'm gonna have to look in my chat there.
Perfect. Okay, so
this is sick.
All right, so here's the first image for the photo share for Spaces. This is Fabian, a listener. He's submitted before. Super solid dude in the guitar space. And I instantly loved this because one of my photos happened to be in the same vibe, and I was like, "Yeah, that's what I'm talking about." Because I liked the idea of spaces being physical spaces you can be like when we were talking about landscapes. I was like, okay, well, internal, external, like big spaces. And then I was like, there's so much room for like inside of a car, compartments.
Or like undefined spaces. This is really cool.
Liminal spaces. But this is a beautiful image.
Yeah.
So I have a little bit of context here. So this was taken with an A7 IV and a Zeiss 35-1.4 in my living room when the light just hit right and drew some nice silhouettes on the wall. Maybe not exactly what other people did, but I find it pretty moody. Pretty moody indeed.
I think it nails the topic.
Oh, yeah, it's so good. You feel like you're in it. The tones are beautiful. This is exactly what I'm talking about.
It's exactly what we're talking about. And we got the added context of this is the scenario of his living room on a regular basis. I'd kill for that. That's cool.
Oh, yeah. Vibing, straight vibing. So
definitely.
Beautiful. Thank you for that submission. That's pretty stellar.
Yeah.
We'll start. Let's pop yours up and you can tell us about it.
Okay. Let me get it up here. I believe I see mine. Oh yeah. Okay. It's pretty self-explanatory. I would think. I lost you. Hold on. We are in Marquette here. When I got to take a trip up this fall, actually, this was the only time I got to do any kind of fall shooting this year. We were at the cabins where we were for the workshop. We try to go every fall. We got to go for a couple of days. And this was my submission for Spaces, which is just me enjoying one of my favorite spaces on Earth. It's not just that it's Marquette, but actually Carp River there. I love that spot. We're kind of up on where I'm sitting is up on a hill that overlooks Carp River. So like Carp River is actually about 15, maybe 20 feet below where I'm sitting. So it actually rushes, like that water rushes way closer to me, below me, and then rounds a bend about 50 yards downriver from there. And so I used the A7 IV and the Sigma 50 because I'm always gonna.
Yeah.
And what I did here was I put it on interval shooting mode. And so every second it was taking a shot. I manually focused to the center of the log that I'm sitting on. So I would know that generally about where my nose would be is in focus. And then I believe I put it at a, this is from memory, so I could be wrong, but I think I put it in the email that it was about 1/10 of a second. Is that correct? It was a 1/10 of a second shutter.
Just ISO down. It doesn't say this. Oh, yeah. 40th of a second.
40th of a second. Okay. So I wanted a little bit of motion in the river because the river's rushing pretty quick. I suppose I didn't need to go all the way down to 1/10 of a second because I think I wanted to keep ISO down to 100, and it looks pretty clean, smoothed out the water a little bit, and it's just me enjoying the space. So I took it kind of literally, but I like it.
Yeah, no, I love it too. I mean, the foreground element, it's a great frame. It's a beautiful frame. Like if this was like on your contact me on your website or whatever, total vibe.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It's always good to have like a natural, good looking self-portrait. So I'm into it. I think it's great.
Cool.
And then the colors are, I really enjoy that we edit so differently. Like I would have brought the luminance and the saturation on all of that green down a ton. And it just would have been a totally different image and the vibe would have been totally different. So I like instantly saw that. And then I was like, how cool is it that like, I already know this would be a totally different image if it was me sitting there.
Interesting.
And my thing. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, that gets me thinking. Maybe soon, someday we could edit each other's images as another form of a challenge. Like we shoot for each other.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah.
All right.
That's all right. Yeah. I'm going to back pocket that one. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So then I have two here. We're going to start with Spaces 1-1,
okay.
Which is more abstract. So this was taken with the Canon 5D Classic on the 50-1.8. And I believe this is the second version of the Nifty 50 from Canon. And my buddy has a like townhouse in a townhouse. No, it's like a condo. It's Arizona and it's like a single story condo. And I was staring at this for probably 30 minutes before I was like, oh, I should grab my camera and take a photo. It's actually up on the wall. I'm shooting through, like the wall has a window inside the interior that I'm shooting through onto the wall on the other side of it.
Oh.
So like the dark part is an interior wall.
Uh-huh.
And then it's basically the entryway to the house is on the other side of that. Running perpendicular to like my viewing point. And yeah, I don't even know what window had all those like harsh lines like that, but I love this. I wish I still did music regularly. I would use this as an album cover and like a heartbeat.
Oh yeah.
Use this like for a book cover. It's awesome. Yeah, it's a vibe.
I like it too. I like that each of those pillars of light has this different focal point of like where it would seem that the light is emanating from. They're all in different spots with different like luminosity values. And then some of the lines even taper off, a couple of them. It's really an interesting shot for sure.
Yeah, I like it. It was just like a chill morning. I really enjoyed being in Arizona. So that was pretty tight. And then obviously my second one here, Spaces 1-2 is also in Arizona. So
okay. Let's pop this up. Oh, yeah. Okay.
So basically landed. My flight got delayed in Kalamazoo, and then I had to wait, and then they put me up in a hotel because I missed my Chicago connection to Phoenix. Yep. So I was in Chicago till the morning, and then I got in. Instead of getting there at 10:30 at night, Thursday night, I got to Arizona at like 7 in the morning. So we went and got coffee and immediately went on a hike. And this is like the South Mountain in Chandler, Arizona.
Okay.
And if you look very closely in the dead center of the frame, there's people out there walking.
Oh, there is.
And it's just so cool how like vast this spot is. And this is, I didn't write down, let me pull up the raw. This is on my 20-70 because I said, I have got this lens and I basically never use it.
Right.
So I forced myself to use it. So this is at 20 mil, 20 mil f4 ISO 100, and it's at 1/25th or 1/2500th of a second. But the tones out there are cool. I don't even think like, yeah, I didn't even push like color tonality on this. I just like did exposure and some curves on it. And it's like almost painterly, just the way that lens rendered that hot environment at
Yeah. I was going to ask you
20 mil.
immediately if that was with the 5D, because I was like, that actually looks really crispy, but it makes sense. 20 to 70. Yeah.
Yep. And just a freaking wide hell of a shot on like this big rock that we sat up on for a little while.
Yeah, that's nice use of foreground.
Yeah, freaking so good, man. The cactuses are cool, little lizards everywhere, just like things that we don't have as Michiganders. That is
for
just
sure.
like basically like being in a bewildering like alien planet for me. So really awesome. But basically we got kind of to the top there. And then I had some photos up on my Instagram and stuff where you can basically see all of Mesa, Tempe, Chandler, Phoenix, like the whole freaking area is in a big bowl. So you can kind of just go up there, sit, and then you can see like all of, you know, the big city, the big metro Phoenix area.
Sure.
But yeah, super dope. Feeling like you're in, you know, space on Mars or something. Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. My brother lives out in Arizona, as does my mom, but my brother does a lot of drone stuff. And actually, he's on Glendale PD and just passed his Part 107 test to be certified to fly for Glendale PD. So he'll be doing special operations with a drone for the police force down there, but he does a lot of recreational flying too. So I've gotten to see a lot of Arizona from the bird's eye view, and it's beautiful.
Oh yeah, for sure. I bet it'd be fun to fly out there too, just because there's so much freaking space. Yeah, pretty wild.
Nice.
So yeah, that was Spaces. I don't have yet. We got to figure out some things with you moving and whatnot. So I'm gonna put the Photoshare on hold. We're not gonna like do that right away. We're
That's
gonna wait
very
till we
fair.
get a little settled. But we'll see. I don't know if I'm gonna end up doing a couple of episodes while you're getting settled. We kind of talked about it briefly. But we're going to try and keep this going as long as we both still enjoy doing it. So
you should do a few episodes so I have something to listen to while I'm packing and moving and unpacking.
Right on. I talked to Ryan about potentially doing one with him. And then I got some other buddies that I've been thinking of. As an honorary mention, Ian, actually Fabian and a bunch of other people, we talk in Ian's Discord channel for his guitar like YouTube channel and everything like that. That's kind of where I mainly talk about photography outside of like you. He released a couple of zines.
Ooh.
He has one all from his Game Boy camera, which is super cool. So he does that, which is really rad. I didn't get that one, but I got this one. It's called Overgrowth. I'm not going to share like the whole deal because I think you should go get zines.
You should
really
definitely.
Fun. But
definitely.
it's a beautiful little zine. And it's got a David Lynch quote in it, and then it actually really works for our Photoshare prompt.
Okay.
So if I'll ask him if he's cool with me throwing up a couple of shots of it just at the end of this Photoshare, and then if he is, I will. But yeah, so very cool stuff, and it's inspired me completely to finally get a zine going. I'd like to do a quarterly one.
Nice.
Yeah, he just does incredible film stuff. He's like the dude that dropped, I think, 2 or 3 a couple Photoshares ago. But yeah, so that was really cool. I think there's one big looming topic that we need to hit, and I don't know how to start it because I'm nervous about how I'm probably going to start vomiting words out. But the a9III has been announced, and it's a lot of money. And if I compile all of the things that I said that I wanted from a camera from Sony in the last 29 episodes of this show, it's pretty much this camera.
Yeah.
And that's super, super rad. But the thing that I never, ever could have possibly in a million years predicted or desired was their freaking global shutter. And there's a lot to unpack. I'm not going to go into like great detail about this camera. I think it'd be just like a waste of breath for like 30 minutes. There's a bunch of people talking about all the stuff on it. But I do want to know, after you've kind of had a little bit of time to sit on it and whatnot, and I don't know what you've seen or what you haven't seen, but what are your initial thoughts on what this global shutter is and this camera in general, I guess?
Well, I mean, when we talked briefly about it earlier, about like video specs, and I said that this thing would stomp all over the A7 IV for video. It's because I know I read a little bit and listened a little bit about the implications of the global shutter, essentially having instant readout, right? Like, we're not talking about rolling shutter anymore because the pixels all read out at the same time now. So for video, certainly there's implications of superiority here, and honestly, it's blindsiding because the A9 set of cameras are the fast photo cameras. And now we have the fastest photo camera that also probably is going to have the best video specs you can get in the A series of cameras, which is a complicated situation for a lot of people because it's an expensive camera.
Yeah. True.
And so what do you buy it for? I guess these pro shooters are buying it for the speed at which it can take professional photos in low light, because the pixel pitch of this sensor is going to be nice, and what's going to be shot at ISO 20,000 is going to look like ISO 8,000 in years past, right? So it's going to be an amazing camera for everybody. Yeah. They did it.
It's pretty wild. So I was trying to temper my excitement and my feelings because I like needed to like really take this in. Yeah, yes. Like we're talking about 4K 120 no crop,
which is huge.
Yeah, 4K 60 no crop. Basically all of the A7S setup. I think the 4K 60 I do believe is oversampled, which is crazy. Like oversampled from 6K. 4K 60. It's going to be as sharp as you can possibly probably get 4K 60. For photography, like being able to have flash sync at 1/80,000th of a second,
insane,
doesn't even make sense. Like I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what 1/80,000th of a freaking second means, right? So it obliterated a bunch of stuff, because then we're talking all the time about wow, Nikon has like the Z9 with no mechanical shutter and all this stuff, and then that also goes out the door when you're talking about a global shutter. Like, you're not going to have banding because it's just like, yeah. You're going to obviously have to deal with certain light elements at slower shutter speeds and things like that. I'm sure you could still probably get some pretty wild artifacting with lights, because you're like if you capture an image in between the refresh rate of a light, obviously it's going to be different, but it won't be like banding looks.
Right.
You'll have images that are darker or lighter next to each other on frames.
Exactly. The interesting thing here is that 80,000th of a second, you have the ability to, that's an incomprehensible speed for me, you know? Yeah. But you're right about doing longer exposures too. You're gonna notice some artifacting or just weirdness with luminosity with certain types of lights. But that's with every camera,
right?
It's not exclusive of this because of the global shutter.
Yeah,
you're only getting a benefit from a global shutter. It's amazing.
It's wild. So, and we're talking about, like, I'm shooting a Sony 51.2 outside at 1.2 with no ND filter. Right, like you're like, because I can go to 1/80,000th of a second. So
yeah,
it's incredibly versatile. So the thing that maybe if you haven't looked a ton into this camera, there are things with the global shutter that are kind of unforeseen yet. I had mentioned to you how like the base ISO is like 250, right? So it's gonna be kind of quirky next to your experience with a normal shutter or a normal sensor, whether it be a backside illuminated sensor or a stacked sensor. It's gonna react differently to certain things. But they're saying potentially, because it draws so much power in a way that another sensor doesn't all at once, you're gonna see noise levels that are characteristically different than kind of the path that new sensors have been going. Like it probably will be a little noisier because it's drawing so much energy to do.
That's
what
an
it's
aspect
doing.
I had no idea about. So when I assumed it would be cleaner at a certain ISO, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it'll be just different structures of noise.
Yes,
Is that what we're
yes,
saying?
and yes and no. Like you're still not incorrect because it's still a 24 megapixel, like
Right.
gnarly. It's going to be an incredibly performing sensor, but it won't have such a benefit over something that would be like the A7S III is still going to be a super crazy low light camera because it's a 12 megapixel, that can shoot an like crazy ISO sensitivity. But I guess until we get like production models in people's hands and we get like a Gerald and Dunn style video of what this noise looks like, it's been 5 at, being generous, 5 years since ISO has even mattered at all. True. So we're still beyond the threshold of like this being a little noisier because the sensor's like gnarly. It's not going to be like bad.
All it really does is it scales everything up because you also have the ability to shoot at 1/80,000th of a second. You then have the ability to think about shooting at ISO, I don't know, 50,000 regularly, and why not? If it's as clean as 10,000 was years ago, or right. Which I was shooting at ISO 10,000 on the D8 10 years ago, right, for a lot of reasons. It's not clean, but is it passable, especially for just Instagram? Hell yeah. Yeah. Right? So to be able to shoot at 1/80th of a thousand, I mean, who knows what kind of applications require that? But people can start getting really creative about how they want to approach scenes now.
Yeah. I don't know. There's probably got to be some kind, like capturing a kingfisher, like hitting the freaking water, dude.
Oh,
somebody's about to get the best kingfisher photo that's ever been taken known to man with this camera. Like that's gonna happen.
Yeah. And then what they implemented, what is it called? Pre-shooting and post-shooting. So essentially you get the second before and the second after. Yeah. You push the button and you select one of the frames.
Yeah. So like
wild.
Like this is something that like high-speed cameras have had for a long time, right? So you're talking about cameras that shoot like 1,500 frames per second or higher. You're trying to capture like bullets or recoil on a gun or like something crazy. You hear it happen, you click it, you're already behind what happened. So you set a buffer range. It's going to be the same thing. Like this is like high-speed photography.
I think, am I wrong, but the Canon R3 is the only one to have that right now?
I actually don't know, but I probably, yeah.
I'm pretty sure, because I listen to Jared Pollan's. He's one of the only podcasts I kind of consistently listen to, and I think he likes the R3 for that feature.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's super good. It's, baseball, dude. How much baseball does Jared Pollan shoot? And like, how nice is it to be like, I'm gonna hit it like right when.
Yeah, exactly. And you can go back a quarter a second.
30 raws a second, right when I hear that freaking crack and I try to time the baseball hitting the bat and whatnot, you're going to get it like every time.
Definitely.
Which is, super important. But the camera's coming in at just about $6,000. This global shutter is going to change a lot, and it's going to stir up a lot for a lot of people. It's going to obviously have like more AI. It's just more, right? 24 megapixels, I've said in the past, is plenty. I was basically hoping, this is basically the A7S IV that I wanted, except I didn't know that it would be so good that it'd have a global shutter.
Yeah.
It's that camera for me. And basically, like I said, up to 120, you're going to have 16-bit RAW over HDMI, all the stuff that you might imagine. The new A7R5 flip screen is on this thing, which I thought if they were going to do anything to make me mad, I was like, cool, I'm going to get all this stuff. What about the screen? I know you're going to tell me that it's like a photo camera, so it's going to have the old photo screen. Nope. They gave the whole kitchen sink to this freaking camera.
Yeah.
As far as I can tell.
They held nothing back.
There's no stone unturned for the entire
thing. The only thing is, if you're the type of person who's been used to shooting on a high megapixel camera, maybe you're going to miss the megapixels. But for everyone else, this ticks all the boxes.
I'm shooting on an 18-year-old 12 megapixel camera. I'm stoked about this. This is awesome.
Yeah.
I do crop a bunch for work. Just because it's convenient for me too, because I have 33 megapixels on my A7 IV, so like, let's go. But I made it work with my A7S III. I was shooting amazing photos all the time with 12. Yeah. So I just am so happy that like I already am going to be putting away money each paycheck. I'm not going to pre-order this thing. I'm trying to decide if I want to like pre-order it in around Christmas or in January when it's like getting closer. We'll see how much money I have saved up. But this changes everything for me. This means that I can get rid of the A7 IV and like get an A7R5 to have high megapixels again. Like this will do everything I need for all the work that I do, all the photography I like to do, all the travel stuff I like to do. I only need this camera. I don't need to like go, well, this one's really good for video, but I'm going to be sad. You know what I mean? There's no compromises for me. And that's worth the cost. Like, I know that's worth the cost. I don't care if they release like a A7 V that is like, I don't know, maybe the same sensor and it has most of these features or whatever. It's not going to matter because like it's probably going to be this or the A1 Mark II.
Yeah.
Like they're not going to put a global shutter in an A7 V. So.
Yeah. The immediate next topic of discussion is what are the implications for the next couple of cameras, right? The next full frame bodies, are they going to have the global shutter? Because the A1 Mark II better, but it does an A7 V?
No, it should. It's not better, right? Because that concession doesn't matter for the people that want the 50 megapixel pretty fast sensor. If we're talking a 50 megapixel global shutter, that's going to be a freaking fire hazard, like a super power hungry thing. Like no chance they have double the megapixels in global shutter. So like, and that's kind of, everybody naturally said, oh cool, well I can't wait till this is basically the A1 II, but it's like this is going to be an A9 thing. I really don't know what an A1 Mark II would even be.
Right. That's what I'm wondering. I mean, yeah, I said it better, but again, I still need to do some research on like the power requirements and what the implications of that are for global shutters. But if it doesn't, what does the A1 Mark II get to differentiate?
That's what I mean.
What does an A7S4 get to differentiate now?
Yeah.
I mean, 12 megapixels still, sure, low light king. What else?
Right. I mean, I have to assume if they do stick with an A7S, I imagine it's going to be something
8K.
like 6K, hopefully. I'm sure they'll probably skip 6K and go right to 8K, but like I hope they don't.
Can they even on a low resolution sensor? I don't think they could do 8K.
It's not going to be a low res sensor. Like that's just not going to be possible.
Which is then back to the question, what's the big differentiator then? Why not just get an A9III? I guess if they keep the A7S4 down to $4,000 or something.
If it's a $4,000 camera that is video centric, but you never know, like it could go up to like, again, a 24 megapixel A7S4 that does it, not 8K, but 6K oversampled. If it goes 4K, like, I don't think people are looking for 240 frames a second, but like maybe that's a thing that they're going to go into.
Maybe it does.
There's a lot of different ways, but it feels like if more cameras come out as an A1 or an A7S, they're going to be much different than the previous ones. I don't know that we can just comprehend like an A7 III to an A7 IV step. I think it would be like I really do think they could kill the A7S, settle with an FX3 Mark II, where they could stick to a similar FX3 body, maybe make it a little bigger, maybe do built-in NDs, something very video-centric, get it to around $5,000. A box camera even. People have been begging for a small box-style video camera from Sony. So the ball's in their court. They can do anything they want.
Yeah.
So I'm excited because like what does that mean? The A1, maybe they have a really fast 80 megapixel sensor we don't know about, where they're like, oh no, you can shoot 20 frames a second at 80 megapixels, and you're like, hold on, what do you mean? Like,
that's the fun thing about watching what Sony does, because they manufacture basically all the sensors that all the camera manufacturers use. So if anyone's getting the new shiny great sensor, Sony's getting it first.
Right. Yeah. Well, and they don't make everybody's, but they make
a
bunch of people's sensors. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really wild. I think the A1's probably going to stick around in the way that it is for a while because it's still every bit as good as anything that a 50 megapixel camera could do.
Yeah.
The firmware updates, I'm surprised there wasn't more coming to the A1, but you know, they'll at least get them up to the level where everything else is, and then it's like what happens with AI autofocus and stuff. Like that's going to be the next thing. Is like I don't know what you do. I don't know what you do. This literally makes the A1 is not just going to be a incremental difference or like because I don't think it'll sell. Like at that point, people would just be like, okay, well, I'm going to get an A9.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe there's somebody that's like, I took 5 years to get to mirrorless, and then now they're going to take away my mechanical shutter. Like I kind of talked about, like the boomers. That's the next boomer thing is that I need to have a mechanical shutter. Is nothing sacred. So,
yeah,
it's we'll see. It's super exciting. I'm baffled.
Do we have an expected release date on that?
Around February, it says they'll start shipping around February. So
okay.
Yeah, I got a little bit of time to save up. I think I'm gonna do it. I don't know why I wouldn't. I want it.
Wild. I mean, ZF. What is even that?
What the hell is even that? It's still a really cool camera.
Sure, it is.
I don't know if I wasn't a video guy at all, I don't know. I'd still probably want a ZF.
Yeah.
I just can't justify spending $2,000 on a camera when I want a $6,000 one.
Yeah, that's tough.
And then there was way less interesting. I don't really care about the 300 mil because that's not something like that's even a little short for your range and way out of your like a $7,000 lens is whatever. Like,
sure,
300 2.8s are cool. They're doing their thing, whatever. But Canon, these saucy boys made the lens that I jokingly dreamed up. I don't know, 20 episodes ago when I said, dude, if they just made a 24 to 105 f2.8 somehow, like. I'd use the hell out of that lens. And then they're like, okay, all right. And it's basically like me being kind of from a video-centric background. Like I'm a photographer first kind of still. I'm not really a cinematographer, but I really like cinema lenses. I like cinema cameras. You can basically take the 24 to 105 and a 70 to 200, and it's like having two kind of matching lenses in a cinema kit, like cinema zooms. It's a big long boy. It's an f2.8. It's every focal length you need for like 99.9% of shooting.
So I haven't seen any pictures, and I have heard that it's a big lens. Can you show me how?
Yeah. Think of a 70 to 200. Like
holy
it's
smokes.
like it's a big 70 to 200. It's got a collar like a 70 to 200.
Wow.
Like a 70 to 200.
It is a dream lens in theory. I mean, 24 to 105 at 2.8. Ooh.
It's probably actually closer to like a 100 to 400 lens. Like it's a chunky boy. Obviously, I've not seen one in person, so I couldn't tell you.
I mean, the glass has got to be just massive.
Yeah, it's huge, but it's only $3,000. Like it's not like it's like some crazy like.
Is that for sale now, or did they?
It's for pre-order. Yeah, it's expected to ship in mid-December.
That's sick.
It's super sick, man. Like man, it's just super cool. I think their design of their RF lenses is super clean. I still like if they had Sigma stuff, like I like Canon, man.
Yeah.
And then they go ahead and make this lens. Like
it's interesting they've announced this because we know that they've got the R1 coming someday, right? And it has to be sort of soon. This would have been such a killer lens to announce alongside that body.
Oh yeah.
Good Lord.
I could literally take a 24 to 105 and a 70 to 200 and like a R5 and shoot everything on planet Earth.
Yeah, I would even be tempted to just not even bring a 70 to 200 around anymore.
Yeah,
like 105 gets a lot of the job done.
Yeah, I definitely, having ran the 24 to 105 in the Philippines a bunch, I wanted my 70 to 200 a lot.
Okay, all right.
But so for day-to-day things, like I'm talking 90% of what you shoot is 24 to 105.
Yeah,
and 10% is a 100 to 200. So. It's super dope. And now I'm looking at a little image of one of the ambassadors holding it with their body. It's the size of it's barely bigger than an old school 70 to 200.
Okay.
Obviously bigger than Canon's 70 to 200.
I have to imagine it's pretty heavy.
Yeah, it's probably decent. Let's pull up the weight specs.
It's got to be over a kilogram.
Yeah, it's 1.3, so it's about 3 pounds.
Oh, yeah.
But man, it looks clean, man. Super
What
good.
is it, like an 88 millimeter filter thread?
82.
82, yeah.
Yep,
Sure.
not bad. 82 tripod collar, long boy 2.8 to 2.2. It's got 11 bladed aperture. It's sweet. It's got
That's
dual
gonna be a
nano
sick
USM
lens.
motors. It's killer as hell. Like this is like a studio camera dream right here. Like I know 3 wedding photographers that I know for a fact they're buying that.
Oh,
Like 100%. It's technically smaller than the 28 to 70 f2.
Yeah.
And it does more shit. So like, okay, do I want that 2 to 2.8 or do I want 24 to 105? You can shoot a whole wedding on a 24 to 105.
Yeah. Literally, I shoot weddings on just a 50 on one body and a 20 on the other. Like, I move my feet a lot, but to have a 24 to 105 on one body, holy.
Yeah.
I mean, that does a lot of things.
We're getting to the point in photography gear that it's like literally no compromises. Like everything's just so damn good, and now you just have to go make art. And then the computers are going to take over, and nobody wants real art because they'll have AI art, and it will never matter.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah, super brutal. So anyway, a little scatterbrained this episode, just kind of whipped it up, but it was kind of like an emergency meme review. We needed to we have a moment of breath with your busy schedule and me just being like swamped. Black Friday is gonna be huge for us at work, and I've just been busting ass. So I'm glad we were able to get together and talk about these couple of things.
Yeah.
I wish you well. This is a huge endeavor. I mean, kids and pets and moving all of your belongings. I was stressed out doing it with my very minimal amount of stuff across the country recently. So
yeah, this is probably the most stressful thing I've ever dealt with in my entire life.
I can't even imagine. Like, it's got to be crazy. So Godspeed. Take care of yourself while you're doing it. And I'm excited to hopefully shoot the next episode while you're up in your new place, and
that'd be great,
and doing your thing. But yeah, I think that's all I have. If you have anything else,
that's it. I just want to thank everybody for listening. This would be a great episode to hop over on YouTube for, just to see some of those images we looked at today. Leave us a comment, leave us a review on Spotify, Apple. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, for sure. That's all I got for you. Go ahead and share this with some people. We're going to get back to it pretty hard. Probably. I mean, I'd venture to guess early next year.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and knock out a couple episodes with some guests, but we'll probably just, I think we should call this season 1 of
that's super fair.
The Light Overtime podcast, and we'll
29 episodes in 2023. We did it, baby.
Yeah. Is this 29? I think this is episode 30.
Is it 30? Okay, I'll take it.
Yeah, so this is episode 30. We did 30 episodes this year. It was a thing that we barely thought we were going to do. And we just started it and we're like, we love it. Let's keep doing it. So
and we're gonna keep doing it. This is great. I've been
super grateful for it. So we'll come back. I'm gonna think through some ways to kind of change up what we're doing, and I guess we'll just hit it pretty hard when we finally get back. But
season 2, baby, let's go.
Season 2. I wish I remembered the Rick and Morty thing, like David and Korey, Light Overtime podcast forever. Season 2. See you next time. Yeah, it'll be good. So thanks again, everybody. Y'all are awesome. Have a safe holidays. It's about to get crazy for everybody. So this is probably the most natural time to call it for a bit. But yeah, I guess we'll talk to you in the next one.
Rest easy, everybody. Thank you. Bye.